Why, hello there everyone, I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. Minasan, konbanwa. And today, as promised, I'm going to be talking about the feeders I use, the two main ones I use, which that is dubias and red runner roaches. But first, let us try to feed these tarantulas. So, these tarantulas were freshly molted, and it's been about a week or so post-molt, so let's see if they'll eat. If they don't eat, then that's not an issue, because we can try again next week. But let's get straight into it. So this first one here is obviously my Pamphobeteus species petersi, also known as the Peruvian Backfire tarantula, also known as the red bloom bird eater tarantula. And this is my female that freshly molted, which I showed her previously, and now she's ready to go. Also everyone, I don't feel too good. I feel very fatigued, so let us see if I can make it through today's commentary. And don't worry, I should feel better tomorrow, but today I don't feel too good. And also, there's been a lot that has been happening currently, so as of now, I'm getting humbled by other tarantula breeders, and if you're wondering why that is, it's because the Pamphobeteus species that I'm not certain of, that I named Bamboo and Rambo. So those two were unidentified Pamphobeteus species, and currently now, and most likely later on, I'm going to change their labels to Pamphobeteus confer ancinus Peru, which it should be the proper labels for these guys because I've been getting lectured by some other tarantula breeders, and this is pretty much normal. And I will say this, when they lecture you, it's kind of argumentative almost, if you catch my drift. Some people might take it personally if they get humbled at times, but for me, honestly, getting humbled is a great experience because it's a great chance to learn to grow as a tarantula keeper and as a tarantula breeder. So yeah, so Bamboo and Rambo are getting labeled as Pamphobeteus confer ancinus Peru. So that'll be the name that you'll see on Friday, because Friday I'm going to be feeding some male tarantulas. But anyhow though, this curly hair here is one of my 12 or 13 females that I have. And yes, she did molt it about a week and a half ago, but she still isn't hungry. But that's pretty much normal, as adult females can take as long as they need before they can go on food again. So as of now, we gotta pass on this female. And I noticed that some people do worry at times when their tarantulas doesn't eat, but as long as their abdomens are not skinny, then they should be fine, because tarantulas, as stated before, they have very slow metabolisms, extremely slow metabolisms. So if their abdomen is plump, or if it's of decent size, then honestly you shouldn't be too worried unless it's very thin. And you also may have noticed that I'm using dubias to feed these post-molt females, and I usually use dubias when it comes to post-molt feeding, especially after they harden up from a recent molt. And I use them because dubias are bigger obviously, and they're more fatter, so a great way to plump up your tarantulas, especially for gravid females or females that you're prepping up to breed, so dubias are a positive in that case. But honestly, I prefer the red runners, and there's a reason why. So this tarantula here is my Theraphosa blondi, the Goliath bird eater, and yes, you're going to see why I don't really like dubias in this case. And I'm still looking for a male for this species, by the way, so if anybody knows somebody that has a male, or if somebody knows a place that has a male, please let me know, because I'll be interested. And oh boy, now allow me to show you why I kind of dislike dubias, especially when it comes to using them to feed tarantulas. Now you're seeing what's the issue here, and that is that dubias play dead. And this is pretty much the thing that kind of deters tarantulas away, because tarantulas rely on vibrations, and when they stand still and play dead, and because of that, it doesn't trigger the tarantula's feeding response, because there's no vibrations, nothing that's indicative of a prey item being there, so they essentially just stand still and then eventually just give up. I find that the best way to feed dubias at times is to lightly crush their heads, so that way it will cause the dubia to actually struggle a bit with their legs, which will probably help out more in terms of getting a feeding response from a tarantula, but that is just my approach. And this right here is one of my colonies, and if you're wondering what the two bowls up front are, those are for food. One is for dry cat food or dog food, and the other one is for fruits and vegetables, which is pretty much self-explanatory. So when it comes to raising dubias as a colony, it's not that difficult honestly, just some egg crates, warm temperatures, offering them some dry dog and cat food, and some fresh fruits and vegetables, and they will pretty much just thrive. Like, it's not really that difficult to raise these as feeders. So when it comes to my least favorite thing in this tarantula breeding and whatnot, the worst process is cleaning out the feeder colonies. It can be a pain at times, and it's very time consuming, so a lot of tarantula breeders that I know, they actually just buy crickets, like 1,000+ crickets every single week, and just use that to feed their tarantulas instead of actually raising a feeder colony. Because while raising a feeder colony is not too difficult, the cleaning, the maintenance and whatnot, it really adds up over time. So for a lot of tarantula breeders, it just makes sense to buy, feeders in bulk, which is crickets in most cases, and then just use that to feed their tarantulas. So I don't know if this is just me, but I've noticed that prices of dubious have gone up a lot, which is kind of strange because dubious used to be very affordable. Now it seems like it's kind of an expensive commodity as a feeder, especially if you want to start a colony. But if you ever raised dubious before though, I would like to know what your experiences were like, because mine has been it's been a mix of things. But anyhow though, allow us to jump on and move on to our next colony. These are the red runner roaches, also known as the lighterless roaches, and I actually like these a lot. They pretty much get everything done. They move around a lot, they trigger the tarantula's feeding response, and they pretty much multiply insanely quick. But there is one downside, and that downside is pretty rough if it gets out of hand, and that is this species of roach can become house invasive. So if you accidentally screw up one day and a few of them escape, and they actually, start producing inside your home, it's not really welcoming. And there are a lot of videos stating that they need low humidity or high humidity. I find that it doesn't really matter about humidity because here where I am, humidity can go up and down based on the seasons. If it's winter, the humidity is extremely dry. If it's summer, the humidity is relatively high. And in both cases, it really doesn't affect, the growth rates or how much they actually lay eggs. I find that the growth rates and the hatch rates and the whatnot is relatively the same. As long as the temperatures are warm, then they will do fine. I mean, they are roaches after all. They're built to survive. It's pretty amazing how tough these roaches really are. But I really like the red runner roaches a lot because the Poecilotherias and the Backfire, two of the most pretty much worst eating genuses in my experience, they eat relatively well when they're on red runners. When it comes to dubious, it takes a while for them to take it, but it's really just preference at the end of the day. There's no better or worse. Both of these roaches have their ups and downs, and these are the two most common feeders that I use. Now if you use crickets, that's actually still fine, because even now tarantula breeders still use crickets as well as a staple. So honestly, at the end of the day, it's really just preference. It's nothing too special, and I guess that's relatively about it. It's really straightforward. Everything is self-explanatory in terms of how to raise these feeders, and there are many resources and many videos discussing about how to raise these colonies and whatnot. So without further ado, I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. As typical, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and stick around. I upload every single Tuesday and Friday here on the channel. Also support me on Patreon and on IG. And with that, stay lax and Laxow out from the Kumo Sensei.